Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. How are you this morning? I hope everyone is in good condition. So as I said in our Google Classroom, I do apologize. I was late to reach you this morning because I have to take care of my wife in the hospital. So for today's class, I'm going to present the material using this online session, and I'm hosting this in my YouTube channel. So please make sure everyone subscribe my YouTube channel so you can always get update from me. And I will probably mix the language. So I will probably use Indonesian language later somewhere in presentation to make clear or to make sure that some points are clearer. And for your information, this material is taken from one chapter from Jeremy Hermer's book, How to Teach English. I've mentioned in our Google Classroom that I have just uploaded the whole or the full version of the ebook. So make sure you check it or have a look, particularly chapter 6. Okay. So before mid-semester, we have discussed some basic ideas about strategi pembelajaran bahasa Inggris. We talk about defining teachers, and we talk about methods, approach, techniques, strategies, and we discuss also some specific technique or some specific strategies that you can use as teachers in the classroom. And now we are going to discuss more specific regarding how to teach English. But before discussing about how to teach English, we are going to start with with one topic, which is broader. It is about teaching language in general. So some points that I'm going to make in this presentation will probably be applicable as well in teaching other languages like Arabic, French, Chinese, and other languages. Okay, everyone, let's start first with this question. What do you think a language study consists of? Or what does language study consist of? So Jeremy Hermer mentioned some points that a language study should consist of these aspects. And the first aspect is exposure. So when you are teaching a language, let's say teaching English, so make sure you need to expose your students to the language. You know the meaning of expose. In Bahasa Indonesia, we call it terpapar. So you have to make sure that your students are exposed or terpapar to the language input. So the more you expose your student to the language, in this case is English, for example, the quicker, the better your student development will be. And this is actually the problem with us in Indonesia. You know, there are lots of data out there indicating that many Indonesians are not really good at English. You know, there are thousands or even millions of Indonesian people. They have been learning English for quite a long time. Some of them have been studying for more than 6 years, 7 years, even more. But their English is not that good yet. They cannot really communicate well. They can't even say simple sentence, for example. And you know why? I think one of the reasons that happen is because we are lack of exposure to the English. Just like your own experience when you go outside and then you go to the market, you go to supermarket, mall, or any other public spaces, it's very rare for us to listen to English, for example. Everybody speaks Bahasa Indonesia, everybody speaks Minangkabau language, everybody speaks their own mother tongue. So we are not exposed to English, rather than instead we are exposed to other languages. So that's why we are good at Bahasa Indonesia, because we are exposed to Bahasa Indonesia all the time. And I believe if we are exposed to English more, we will grab the language quicker. And so that's actually what happened to those who learn English overseas, for example. That's why in a classroom, do you still remember, I think I make a joke that once I asked a bully a question, sir, what is the best ways to study English? And his simple short answer is go to England. And I agree with his answer. Why going to England is the best way to study English? Because when you go to England and you live there for some time, maybe living in London, for example, 1 month, of course, every day you go outside, you will listen to English. Lots of people, almost all people speak English. So that means you are exposed to English. And I believe by day later, you will get familiar to the language spoken. So please remember this in your class later when you become an English teacher, you are teaching your students English, make sure you expose them to English. The exposure can be from their listening input, just like what I'm doing now. That's why I'm trying to use my English when presenting something to you. So you expose to English, and I hope you understand my language. And the more you are familiar with my English, I think the easier for you to understand, right? And of course, the input is not only listening input, it should be also reading input. So when you are teaching your student English, provide them some text with English on the text, okay? So it could be from listening, could be from reading, and of course, I hope later they can produce their own language in speaking and writing. Do you understand what is exposure? So that is the first, okay, aspect or the first point that you need to remember when you are teaching a language, including English. That's number one. And then the second one, according to Jeremy Hermer, is when you are teaching your student a language, in this case is English, of course, you need to make sure how you can help your student to understand meaning. So exposure is one thing, and the next one is whether you understand the meaning of the language input that you are exposed to. So for example, when you live overseas, you live in London and go outside and people say something in English, first you are exposed to their English, and then after that, how can you understand what they are saying? Okay, so when somebody say excuse me, for example, you're exposed to the language input with the sound excuse me, and then the next step is how can you understand that excuse me excuse me mean that something are they asking for your permission or asking for sorry, thing like that. Okay, so meaning is the next level that you need to pay attention when you are teaching your student language. Okay, exposure, meaning. But again, meaning much depends on the exposure you have. The more you expose students to the English sources, and I hope after this, they will get the meaning of the exposure. Okay, so exposure, meaning. So when somebody says, repeatedly say something like, hi guys, let's go outside and hang out, for example. So let's go outside and hang out is exposure. Okay, when you are listening to that sentence, that means listening input, or when you read that, that is reading input. But then whether you understand that let's go outside, hang out is a kind of invitation. So until you understand that let's go outside and go hang out is a kind of invitation, okay, that is the teacher's responsibility to make sure the student understand the meaning of the exposure. Okay, that is the second element of a language study. And the next one is how can you help your student to understand the form of the language? Form means it's related to how the language is constructed. For example, if we are making an invitation, for example, how to construct a good invitation in English. Yeah, come back to my sentence, let's go outside. There is a construction there. Yeah, in this case is we should use the word let's. And then actually let's consists of let us, but it is shortened by let apostrophe s, and then followed by verb one. So let's go, okay? Let's eat, let's watch. What else? Let's write, let's play. Okay, that is construction. That is a form of the language. In this case, is making an invitation. Okay, and there are lots other construction that you need to help your student to understand. So exposure number one, and then meaning is the second, and then the next one is understanding the form of the language or how the language is constructed. When you are talking about present tense, for example, or in this case, it's present progressive. Okay, you need to expose your student with the language that by telling, okay guys, now I'm presenting my presentation, or I'm presenting a topic today. I'm now going online, so on and so forth. And then student should understand that when I'm saying I'm presenting, that means I'm doing something. And then the next level is how they understand the construction of the sentence I am presenting. In this case, it consists of subject, to be, verb ing. Okay, so when they understand that when we are saying something in progressive, we should use subject, to be, and verb ing, that means they understand the construction of the language. Okay, and another element that is very important when you are teaching your a language to your student is practice. Yeah, I think it's easy to understand that practice, at the end of the day, it is the practice that will make your language learning perfect. So that's why people say practice makes perfect. So make sure in your class, when you are teaching your students any elements or any part of the language, you need to add to the activities when students can practice the language. So never do something like totally lecturing from beginning to the end, or totally explaining something without giving any chance to your student to practice the language. Okay, do you understand this point, everyone? So first exposure, and the second one is meaning. The next one is understanding the form, and the fourth or the last one is practice. So please remember these four important points that you need to take into account in teaching a language, in this case as teaching English in your case. All right, let's go to the next slide. Okay, the next question, then how should we expose students to language? What do you think? I have mentioned some ideas before. How can you make sure that you are exposing your student to the language? First, it should start from, this one, for beginner, a complete beginner, you should start first from expose them to spoken language. In this case, it's listening. So that's why I think, I don't know whether you remember when I explained in your class that naturally speaking, when we are learning a language, we actually start from listening skill first. Maybe do you remember when you were still a baby? How do you learn your mother tongue, for example? Bahasa Ibu, mother tongue. How do you learn it? Do you jump to speaking? Can you speak when you were still a baby, like the first minute or the first day of your birth? And then did you speak or did you write? It was impossible. Okay, as a normal person, we cannot speak, we cannot write, we cannot read in early of our life. So how did we learn English? The first step or the first skill that we learn or that we acquire was listening skill. So that's why when you are teaching complete beginner student, in this case is younger students, you need to expose them to spoken language. In this case is listening. So you need to provide listening material more in your class. Okay, listen to a song, for example, listening to a song, listening to a story. Okay, listening to short stories, listening to even listening and watching movies. So listen and listen. So that means they are exposed to spoken language. So it's not a good idea, of course, to teach your student in this period about grammar, for example, or grammatical explanation, right? That's for a complete beginner. And how about for, let's say, the next level elementary school students? Okay, spoken. In this case, still spoken or listening is important, but you can now provide some reading text. So you can combine listening and reading text to expose your student to both language inputs. In this case, it's listening and reading. Okay. Remember that listening and reading are two important exposures that you need to provide in your class. Yeah, when you are teaching elementary school or complete beginners students. How about lower intermediate? It's like the next level. Maybe in this case is siswa SMP or siswa SMA. What can you provide them? Yeah, you, in addition to listening, in addition to reading, you can now use text that gives many examples. So more complicated texts. So not only reading about short stories, but more complicated text. Maybe in your schooling experience, you are learning about narrative text, descriptive text, expository text, and so on and so forth. This is actually the practice of providing more language inputs to you as students who are learning language. So you are exposed to text more. How about for upper intermediate like SMA or student in university? Yeah, in addition to listening, spoken, and then reading text, and then variety of text, yeah, you need also to use print out from the computer that takes many examples of some sources. Maybe in this case, you're exposed to maybe journal articles, you're exposed to reading text which is more challenging, like textbook, for example. So that's what you are doing, right? That's what you experience when you are learning English in universities. Yeah, because this follows the theory mentioned by Jeremy Hermer. Okay, that's about exposure, everyone. And the next one is about meaning. Remember, the first one is exposure, the next one is meaning. So now the next question, how can we help students to understand meaning? How they understand the meaning more easily? Okay, these are some ideas that we can do. Yeah, generally speaking, it depends on the level of student. Okay, yeah, as a teacher, you might deal with different level of student. Can be complete beginners or early beginners, or maybe elementary school students or SMP student in this in our Indonesian term, or SMA student, university student. And these are some ideas that you can do. Okay, if you read the book, there are lots of ideas mentioned by Jeremy, and these are some ideas that you can do in your class to help students to understand the meaning more quickly. For example, when you are exposed them a simple sentence like "it's a pen," so you are saying "it's a pen," "it's a pencil," yeah, "it's a book," yeah, "it's a ruler," "it's a sharpener," and so on and so forth. Do not only rely on the listening or the spoken form, but you can also show them the objects, show them the picture of a pen. But object is more practical, is I think is more effective in this case. So when you are saying it's a pen, you bring the real pen and show them the pen. So when you are saying it's a pen and they see the object of a pen on your hand, so they will understand quickly that when you are saying it's a pen, oh, pen means pena. So they know the meaning without saying the translation to them. Okay, do you understand? So you don't need to say ini pena, no, but by showing the object of a pen, they know the meaning. Do you understand? And you can change the object later depending on the vocabulary that you are teaching. If you are teaching about other object like it's a pencil, you need to show them the object of pencil, the object of drawer, the object of sharpener, the object of blah blah blah. Okay. And for teaching vocabulary like verbal, like verb, okay, or action verb, of course, you cannot show them the object, right? But you can mime the action verb. When you're teaching them run, for example, you are miming how people running. So use your gesture, use your body language, use your own expression to help them understand the meaning. Okay? And of course, after that, you need to check. Yeah? You need to check whether they understand the concept that you are teaching. So after saying, it's a pen, and then you show them the object of the pen, you can ask, so what is this? And listen to their answer. If they can say, it's a pen. All right. So they understand now the meaning. Okay, guys, you understand? Right. Now let's move on. Sometimes you can also do this in teaching them about about tenses. So you use what we call by a timeline. So when you talk about past tense, for example, so you can show them that past tense is something that happened before now. Okay, so you can draw this line. So whatever happened before now, it's called past tense. I think this timeline can help them understand more easily what you are teaching. They understand the meaning now. Okay, I will make it quick. Just about meaning. Now jump to language form. How can you help your student to understand the language form? Remember, language form is how language is constructed. Ya, bagaimana bahasa itu dibangun, construct ya, constructed. Ya, misalnya when you are talking about present tense before or present continuous, how a present continuous tense is constructed. Okay, so what you can do is first, yeah, you can isolating the bits and saying them. What does it mean? Isolating the bit like when we are teaching student present progressive, so you can isolate the word the sentence like I am teaching students online. So now later you isolate. I is subject, then am is to be, and then teaching is verb-ing in this case. So you isolate them, and then later they can understand that when they are constructing present progressive, they need to use subject first to be verb-ing. I think you have seen your teachers practicing these strategies, right, in your schooling experience. Okay. Now, like this, in this case, like it's a pen. You can construct a table like this. So it's a pen actually comes from it is pen, but in a spoken form, we normally make it short, like it's a pen, it's a table, it's a computer. Okay. Now the last part is practice. So how should student practice language, or what can you do in your class to make sure that your student practice the language? You can do choral or individual repetition. Choral means together, yeah, together or in group, or individual repetition. So when you are teaching vocabulary, like it's a pen, it's a pencil, it's a ruler, it's a book, you can first you can say by yourself, repeat after me, and then is a pen, and then together they repeat is a pen, is a pencil, is a pencil, it's a book, it's a book. So when they repeat together, that means choral repetition. However, do not stop in choral repetition. You need also to check student individually. So you need to ask student to repeat your sentence individually by mentioning particular name like Anto, for example. Please repeat after me. It's a pencil. Then Anto will repeat, it's a pencil, and check whether the construction is correct, whether the pronunciation is correct, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay. And then the next is using from words like kata bantu. Okay, so based on the from words, then the student develop their own sentence. Okay, for example, when you are teaching your student making an invitation, maybe first you provide an example by using, for example, would you like? Okay, like in this case, example is would you like to come to my birthday party Saturday morning? Then you ask the student to repeat together, would you like to come to my birthday party on Saturday morning? And after they are able to do that, and then you change the word birthday party with another activity or another event. For example, wedding party in this case. So the prompt word is wedding party, and then ask them to practice using wedding party. Okay, now using wedding party, please. Together, 1, 2, 3. Would you like to come to my wedding party Saturday morning? Okay, and then after that, provide another prompt word. Be in this case, it's graduation ceremony, for example. Would you like to come to my graduation ceremony on Saturday morning? And so on and so on. Okay, another important thing is you can also ask students to act out. It's like a role play. I think you have practiced this many times in your teaching, in your learning experience, right? So very important for the student to feel the sentence, to get the meaning by acting out the sentence that they are producing. And I think this, I think you know how effective role play is in learning English, because by acting out, you do not only produce the language, but also you understand how it feels when you are acting the word. Okay. All right, everyone. The last part of my presentation is how about if, or what if student makes a mistake? Yeah. Very likely when you are teaching student English, they will make mistake. So what should you do with this mistake? Remember, everyone, mistake is normal. Again, making mistake is normal. The mistake can relate to grammar, can relate to pronunciation. So never get upset when your student make mistake, because learning, a mistake is part of learning itself. You know, by the end of the day, this is not our mother tongue. Okay, so when you are making mistake, when learning English, that is normal. So never get angry to your student when they're making mistake. So what should you do when you listen or you hear or you see a student make a mistake? One of the things that you can do is you need to correct the student mistake by asking if one of their colleagues or one of their classmates can help out by explaining the problem ourselves. So do not directly say, no, that's wrong, for example. When your student saying, Zay is writing English book, no, that's not right. How come you say they is writing should they are? Okay, no. People will feel, you know, embarrassed when you make when you say something like that. So you can, you know, you can ask some other student correcting their classmates. So when when one student say they is writing book, and then you can check other student. What do you think, guys? Is it right? And I believe 1, 2 students in the classroom would mention, I don't think right, sir, because blah, 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 blah. So by indirecting, by showing the mistake indirectly, it would save somebody's face, okay? So she or he will not feel embarrassed, and they know also the problem. So hopefully they can improve later the language. Okay, I think that's all, everyone. Our class this morning. So thank you for your participation by listening to this. So my next instruction, or what should you do to follow up this is, please look at chapter 6 of the book that I've mentioned, and then please write any comment below this post in the chat box in the YouTube channel, at least by saying thank you, or if you have any questions, you can drop your question in the chat box so I can read your question. Okay, so make sure you say something that's also a proof or evidence that you have listened to my video. Okay, do you understand, everyone? Thank you then. Okay. Okay, then see you again in the next episode, or maybe in our Google Classroom. Stay healthy, stay safe. All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.